Now, one of my favorite dynamics that I've ever experienced in anime is Light and L in Death Note. That whole cat and mouse chase, L knowing that Light is the one he's looking for ever since his first hunch basically led him to Light. And the idea of that constant back and forth, knowing this has to be the person, but all the evidence saying otherwise, there's too many good moments that basically shield Light from any blame. That is the exact same vibe that I am getting with My Home Hero, and this back and forth, almost cat and mouse chase between our main character Tetsuo, who basically he ends up in a situation, kills a member of the Yakuza to protect his daughter, and this man, Kyouichi, who knows it has to be him, but every step of the way between this husband and wife, pulling the rug from underneath his feet, to the point where by the end of episode 9, it ain't looking good for this man, and honestly, I haven't felt this type of excitement and this vibe since really Death Note. This whole idea of knowing it has to be this person, but all the facts say otherwise, and honestly, My Home Hero is hitting different. It is hands down still one of my personal favorite shows of this season, and I honestly think will be one of my personal favorite shows of this year in general. That is how much I'm liking it. I would still obviously give the edge to Death Note, but in terms of vibes, yeah, that dynamic is very similar to Light and L, and I really enjoy it. Now, if you want to see my full live reaction to either episodes 8 or 9, which is what we're going to be talking about today, you can head on over to the Patreon and consider supporting. I'm loving this one. Sadly, YouTube doesn't like it as much as me, hence why I'm doubling up and maybe even tripling up depending on how this video does. But I love talking about it. It is absolutely a quality production, and I think the back and forth of what they're building up to basically one of these men are going to die. It's either going to be our dad or it's going to be a very loyal member of this organization. And to see the build up between 8 and 9 in terms of we need to get into his apartment, and then once we get into his apartment with him there, he has a safe. That safe could be used to plant evidence, but he turns around and doesn't get to see it. So we have to ask ourselves, okay, we know the mom is the reason that bag got into that safe. And we see her stretching, she's getting all limber, so she probably did some parkour down the building. Can she also crack safes? Is this one of her talents we're going to learn about? Or was there some way that he caught a glimpse of the code and was able to tell her that? We don't know. But the satisfaction and heartbreak mix into one of building up to him being framed, it honestly got to me because while he may not seem like the nicest guy around, I honestly think Kyouichi seems like a genuine dude who was saving money, doing what he could for his family, got roped into stuff that he shouldn't have, but honestly, I was really hoping they might have become frenemies, but instead, one of them had to die seemingly. Now, he's not dead just yet. Could he get out of this and run away? Potentially. But the fact remains, this is the perfect blame I think I have seen in a long time, because basically, even if they fully say, okay, this father, he actually isn't responsible, he was going to die and get pinned for the blame so that basically their organization wouldn't look like fools. Someone had to take the fall, and whether he was innocent or not, we know he wasn't, he was going to die. So at this point, he had to pin the blame on someone, and the best person to do it was sadly Kyouichi, the one who suspected him from the get-go, but basically every step of the way the proof wasn't there. And the idea of getting that bag of bones and the tablet, which has the video that was faking the dude who ended up getting killed in episode 1, basically it's all in his safe. Not only is there a bunch of money, which obviously wouldn't link up to the serial numbers of the robbery, which did actually happen, the way they build into this and how they had it filmed the whole time, so when he starts making sense, he must have slipped the bag in. Well, did I have a bag with me? Everyone's thinking probably not, but honestly, if people make a convincing enough argument, you can maybe believe that this man did have a bag with him the whole time. But when you zoom in on that video, the bag's already there. Everything he's saying is true. Someone hacked into his email. Someone planted the evidence. Tell him, Tetsuo, tell him there was nothing in there. Well, I can't, boy, because you told me not to look at the safe. You have to admit, the dynamic with this mother and father is so damn effective. And I think when you get the confirmation of what happened to his dad, in terms of he was the type of man who would rather send off a signal flare to warn the people behind rather than saving and prioritizing his own life. It really does paint a picture of why this father is so the way he is in terms of his sense of value and justice. And honestly, there's a moment when they're making the omelet, right? He's cooking an omelet for the two of them, and it honestly feels like the Last Supper, their final meal potentially for the both of them. It was that moment that made me say there's a genuine connection there, that he's starting to look at this man as maybe he could be innocent. Maybe you know what, maybe there's a way that we both get out of this alive. And then you see by the end of episode 9, him just being like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't go in your safe. How would I get in your safe? I don't know your combination. And we see the lengths that they're willing to go. I'm not sure if it was in episode 8 or if it was in episode 7, but one of the two, when the mother goes over to Kyouichi's mom's home, and honestly, she's almost willing to plant the bones there, she decides not to, and it makes you feel like, okay, his side of the family, and he will also be safe from basically being blamed, and they're going to eventually work together for something else. And instead we get the moment where the idea of like coughing up a storm because they're smoking 100 cigarettes, going into the bathroom saying, hey, I stashed the bag, we're going to need you to do this or that. The idea of the email coming in when he's sitting on the couch, his hands are out of his pockets, he can't be sending something. The email didn't come as soon as he left the bathroom, he was literally sitting there for a couple of minutes. Everything about it feels grounded in reality in the way that there's more to meets the eye for most of these characters, but the way they explain how they sabotage, plant, and set up is really well done. And whether it's the retro aesthetic they did at the beginning of episode 9, where we're getting the flashback of when he was in high school and he says he loses his parents, and then a year later he loses his grandfather. I'm like, damn, how much can you lose in just that short amount of time? Honestly, you could probably have an anime similar to how Megalobox used that retro art style and animation aesthetic. You could probably make an anime almost filtered the way they did for those like 20 seconds, and it probably would be a really interesting detective show. But honestly, just watching the build up, the way he would stash it, I mean, the way he used the blacklight to switch it out and he restapled it and basically it made it look like the apartment was clean. All these little moments feel so well thought out, and this type of excitement is seriously second to none from me. It is a shame that so many are sleeping on it, because I would honestly argue this is a 10 out of 10 anime for me. I love it. I love the old school feel to it. I gush about this because it's so different, and when you constantly see anime fans complain that all we get is isekai or the same tropes and trends, and then a show like My Home Hero comes out, breaks the mold, breaks the trends, and just does things intelligently. It's a shame that the same people who complain that everything's the same in anime don't watch the actually unique shows, and there's no real good reason for not to. It's not on like a random platform that's licensed. No, like, it's front and center every Sunday, and you gotta watch it. I mean, it's just so damn good. I mean, honestly, I would buy a Blu-ray for this if they release it in North America. I'm not sure how a dub would sound for this, but in terms of the voice acting with the Japanese cast, they are hitting it out of the park, and I had a blast watching these last 2 episodes. I'm not sure if I'll do a double review or a triple review, or if I'll come back next week. I do cover these every week on Patreon no matter what, but it just depends on how well these videos do, because a few shows this season just don't seem to be doing well on the channel to make it be worth doing every single week, so just keep that in mind. But let me know what you're thinking down below of either this newest episode or last week's episode. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more of My Home Hero, and like I mentioned, full live reactions every week on the Patreon, and while you're there you'll also get a video shoutout. So today we have Samuel Valdez, Ranga Rage, Sign, and Ryan Feather. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.